Welcome, everyone. Thank you very much for attending our session, Expanding to Canada or Expanding in Canada or on Canada, your FBA roadmap. I'm John O'Glanville, and I have the great privilege of leading selling partner recruitment and development for Amazon Canada. I'm kicking the session off today. I'll walk us through an overview of Canadian e-commerce, a little bit about Amazon Canada, how to get started. Then I'll pass the session off about halfway through to my colleague Nirav Shah, and Nirav will do all of the heavy lifting in the presentation for sure. I've been at Amazon for a little over 14 years, and I'm super passionate about Amazon Canada specifically for a few reasons. First of all, I'm a proud Amazonian. Secondly, I love the opportunity to work with independent sellers. And finally, I'm Canadian. Now, I said this is a massive room. If you're at the back, feel free to move forward. There's definitely a lot of room for you up here. This is a huge room. First of all, a quick show of hands. Who's currently already selling on Amazon.ca? Wow. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you very much. Another show of hands, who is planning on expanding to Amazon Canada within the next year or so? There's one, right? Whoa, lots. Fantastic. Okay, awesome. Great. Well, this session is billed as a 2.0 session, but we've kind of built it as a 1.5, 1.75, so we can address all of those use cases, whether you're someone that's been selling on Amazon.ca for a while and you need some help into FBA, or somebody that hasn't expanded yet, and we'll help you with that as well. Great, a little bit about the agenda. And again, understanding there's different levels of familiarity with selling in Canada. We'll start with a bit of an intro, an overview of Canada and Amazon Canada. I'll do that. Then I'll help you with getting started on Amazon.ca. Then I'll flip the presentation to Nirav, and Nirav will dig into how to successfully launch in FBA and how to optimize your business and some best practices. I would encourage everyone, if you have any questions through the presentation, jot them down. We've got a lot of team members here. They're all wearing T-shirts that say, "Ask me about Canada." We'll all be standing outside the room afterwards, and we'll be happy to help anybody with any questions they might have. All right, great. So to get started, I want to give everybody a little bit of an understanding of what makes Canada such a compelling opportunity. What's particularly interesting about the Canadian market is the similarities it has with their US business, but there's less competition. So it provides some unique growth opportunities. The geographic proximity of Canada to the US market makes it an ideal place to expand first in your international expansion. And then about roughly 2/3 of the population of Canada lives within 60 miles of the border. You'll find that the shopping behaviors are pretty similar. So a lot of the best practices, you'll hear me say this a bunch of times through the presentation, a lot of the best practices that you use in your US store, you can apply to the Canada store. Great. All right, so included this quote from BetaBot. I think they're here today. Are they here today? They told me they were going to be here today. They're not here today. If they were, thank you. So this slide, while it's bold that they saw a 4x lift, the 4x lift came from moving their products from North American Remote Fulfillment, or NARF, we'll talk more about that later, into FBA. I think what is really important about this slide is how they treated Canada as a launch, a strategic launch. They worked with our team. They treated it as a strategic expansion for their business, not an afterthought. They leveraged our partner network. They committed to understanding some of the nuances of the local market. Then they launched quickly using NARF. We'll talk more about that later, and our team can help you with this. You could turn the lights on if you're not in Canada. You could turn the lights on today and be selling in Canada if you want to go in with NARF. But then they launched quickly in NARF, and then they moved their selection into FBA. And Nirav will dive into the differences in a lot of detail about NARF and FBA, and the conversion lift that you see, the ease of getting in country with NARF, but then the conversion lift you see by moving your selection in country. And this is what BetaBot did. They're a seller of solar pool cleaners, and they work directly with our team. Next slide is great. All right, I'm going to share a little bit about the Canadian opportunity and share some numbers with you. So Amazon.ca is the #1 online store in Canada by e-commerce sales. We're the second most influential brand in the country, which is huge. And we're also 85% of Canadian shoppers shop on Amazon.ca monthly. And so this last stat, I love this last stat because it really shows that our customers, or the customers you'll be reaching, are already shopping in a place they love and expanding to Canada. 85% of shoppers are shopping monthly on Amazon.ca. And 40 million people is the population of Canada. All right, this next slide I don't love. It's kind of a crappy slide, but it's super busy. Include this slide really to demonstrate the investment that Amazon has made in country. So this is our fulfillment network. Things like 23 fulfillment centers, 34 delivery stations. Andy, and I don't know if folks that saw Andy's fireside yesterday, he talked a little bit about delivery stations. This allows us to access a lot of the rural areas in country. So this demonstrates the commitment. Canada is a massive geography, second largest country in the world by land mass. And this network allows you to reach customers in country in 1 to 2 shipping days across all major metropolitan population centers, and really use our fulfillment network as an extension of your business. All right, a little bit about consumer behavior. I referenced this going in at the beginning, how there's a lot of similarities between the US and Canadian consumer behavior. Top performing categories include lifestyles, electronics, consumables, and apparel. I think the big takeaway that I have on this slide is regardless of the category that you're currently in or looking to expand in, there's a really large opportunity. And within the Canadian market, these opportunities continue to grow in a meaningful way year over year as well. I think additionally, from shopping behavior points, peak seasons, holiday shopping patterns, product preferences, they all align really closely with the US. So again, I'll just refer back that a lot of the strategies they are already applying in their US store, you can apply nicely in the Canada business. All right, knowledge check. I'm going to move to some practical steps about getting started, listings, things like that next, but just reiterating, Canada, strong e-commerce. Amazon Canada is an industry leader in country, and the consumer behaviors in Canada model are very similar to the US. I've said it about 10 times, so hopefully we've got that by now. Awesome, getting started. Okay, transitioning to the how-to. There's one important new thing this year, and it's in the registration process. And it's called KYC, or we refer to as KYC, or Know Your Customer. Folks that sell in the EU are probably familiar with Know Your Customer. KYC is in the EU. And then folks that sell in the US are familiar with the Inform Act and some similarities there. I'll get into the details around this. But I just do want to reinforce it's self-service. We have teams that are trained to help you through the process. And it's pretty smooth once you get through the KYC process. So I'll get a little bit into that, talk a little bit more in a couple of slides. All right, expanding to Canada. So this is everybody that put their hand up initially that said they're already selling. This is a repeat for you, so apologies, but I'll get through it quickly. So to start selling in Canada, you need to create your Canada selling account. The easiest way to do this is to use a North American unified account. It's the same account, single sign-on within your Seller Central account. Allows you to sell and manage in the same account your US store, your Canada store, your Mexico store, your Brazil store. Now, we do have some use cases where for different business entity structures, some folks will want to create their own Canada individual or separate store, and that's allowed. Nirav will get a little bit into that within his presentation. But again, the easiest way to do this is to use a North American unified account. And then I've already referred to complete Know Your Customer. This is a requirement for the Canadian federal government that all companies selling in country need to apply to. So we've now signed up for this as well. And I'll get into this in the next slide. So KYC, or Know Your Customer, I'm touching on this particularly because this is new. This is something that's happening this year for new sellers to Canada, and for existing sellers, it's coming to everybody. So I'm spending a little bit of time on this. It's a requirement by the federal government, as I talked about. It's similar to the Inform Act. I'll get into some more details on the next slide. It's fully self-serviced in Seller Central. So you manage the whole process within your Seller Central account. And we have dedicated teams that are trained specifically on these requirements to help you. People in this room can help you when you leave, or we have dedicated teams online that can help you as well. Oh, the last comment I'd make is that what we find is the majority of sellers that go through KYC finish it in sort of 1 to 2 business days, because the next slide shows you what you need. All right, it's a pretty busy slide, but really the takeaway on this slide is this is information you already have. So if you're a private person, in order to pass identity verification, you need one of these forms of ID, which I'm sure everybody has. Now, most of the people in here, in terms of their selling on Amazon account, aren't private people. They're business entities. And so if you're a business entity, you need to verify yourself in terms of the information on the left here. Left, yes. And then as a business entity, additionally, you need to have a letter of authorization that's signed by a director plus level contact at your company. Again, this is all managed within Seller Central. Our teams will help you on this. We have examples on Seller Central what a letter of authorization looks like, and it's pretty seamless once you get in and go through the process. Awesome. Okay, so you've created your selling account. Now's where the fun stuff happens. You select your products, and then you complete your requirements. All right, when you select your products, we recommend using business reports in Seller Central, recommend Product Opportunity Explorer, market trend analysis. These are things that are not new to anybody in this room likely. You're using all of these things on your .com account, and we recommend using these things on your .ca account as well. Typically what will happen with our sellers when they expand to Canada, I talked about this a little bit already. Typically what they'll do is they'll launch with NARF, or North American Remote Fulfillment. Again, Nirav will talk more about this in his presentation, the details around it. They'll launch with their full selection using NARF right away. It's an easy entry. We're going to manage everything for you. That's a really easy entry. But then they're going to pick about 10 to 20% of their top US SKUs and decide to bring that in country. And the power of that is it's easy to use NARF, but you're going to see a 4 to 8x sales lift by using FBA. So that's really where you're going to want to end up with at least the head of your catalog. Items with proven demand, some margin opportunities, and that's where you're going to want to start. In terms of completing the requirements, typically, our most successful sellers, Nirav will also talk about this. I'm putting all the heavy lifting onto Nirav. He'll also talk about our service provider network, so our SPNs. I know there's some of them in the audience here, actually. We talked to them yesterday. Our most successful sellers typically will use one of our SPNs. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about our SPNs and the value they offer in the process. Awesome. So our service provider network is a network of vetted partners who meet quality standards, training and certified. They work directly with and they collaborate with our teams. And they help on a number of things. You can look on the list here. This is not an exhaustive list. They help with way more things that are on this list. I won't read the list. But what I will talk to is we find that there's with all the things that our SPNs help with, logistics and moving products across the border and the requirements around that, that's really where SPNs add a ton of value. So we'd encourage you to go down, meet with some of our SPNs down in the basement of the conference, and logistics is an area where they really shine. Awesome. Okay, so you've created your selling account. You've selected your products. You've completed the requirements. Now it's time to list your products. The main stage presentation today was amazing. All the AI tools, et cetera, that we're bringing in, making it easier for folks to list products. I think if you think about it, you think, why am I not speaking about all these tools? Well, typically the folks in this room, the majority of the folks in this room are selling on .com. And so we're making the assumption that your listings are already live on .com. So then what we do is we encourage you, the easiest way to get your products into Canada on .ca is to use our tool. It's called the Build International Listings tool, or BIL tool. And what that will do is it will cross-list your products from your US store onto your Canada store. And it's super easy. It's really easy to use, and that's what we would encourage people to do. You can also upload in bulk via APIs or flat files, but the easiest way to do that is to get your products listed on Canada would be to use our BIL tool. Again, Nirav will talk more about it afterwards. Okay, I've thrown a ton at everybody here. I realize I've gone really quickly. Nirav's like, I went too quickly, and now he's going to fill more time than he wanted to, probably. But I've thrown a ton on it. It feels like the onus is all on you. And what I'd do is I'd reinforce, well, the onus is kind of on you. We find that the most successful sellers on Amazon in general, in this case, Amazon.ca, are sellers that treat their store on Amazon like a business. Invest in the store. We have all the tools that you can use. You have to invest in the store. And then rest assured, I did mention a couple times in the presentation that the tool sets that you use on .com the vast majority of them, you're going to use the same tools on .ca. Like Product Opportunity Explorer, it's going to identify products that you're going to want to list. But then there are things like our currency converter, for instance, that you're not going to use on .com. The currency converter will convert the funds that we're taking, that your sales proceeds on .ca. It'll convert them to USD and deposit them right into your US bank account. So lots of onus on you, but tons of tools that will help support your business on .ca. Great. So that's the end of my presentation. At this point, first of all, I want to thank everybody for listening to this, going through the overview of Canada, the opportunity, and then how to get started. At this point, I want to pass to my colleague, Nirav Shah. I've mentioned him like 10 times in this presentation. Nirav and his team have launched and helped optimize and scale thousands of sellers on the Canadian market. So he's the preferred and expert person to talk about how to get into FBA and how to optimize your store. I'm going to pass it over to Nirav. Nirav, thanks.
Thank you, Jono. Big round of applause one more time, not only because it was a great presentation, but John is also my boss, so. All right, Nirav Shah, I've had the privilege of leading our selling, partner, recruitment, and development team over the past 5 years, and I've absolutely loved working with sellers, so I'm really thankful for this opportunity to share this stage with Jono today. Over the next 15 minutes, we'll go through the fulfillment strategies and optimization, run through NARF, FBA, what those terms mean for some of you. Most of you already know. And then what are the differences between the two channels, how to use those together. As Jono did, I just want to do a quick audience check. How many of you are already selling in Canada via NARF? Okay, a lot of you. How many of you are selling in Canada via FBA? Okay, a few of you. Hopefully we can change that post this presentation. So, as we can see, most of you are experienced US sellers. While US has two primary channels through which you can launch, FBA and FBM, Canada has a third one, NARF, or remote fulfillment with FBA. NARF offers the quickest way to enter a market. You can start selling in Canada today with just a few clicks, accessing the new market without committing any inventory yourself. So if you're not doing NARF, I would say do it. In fact, meet our team right outside of this. They can do it in 5 minutes. NARF allows you to sell in Canada using your US FBA inventory, with Amazon managing everything. Taxes, returns, shipping, you do get a Prime badge. It does come with some higher remote fulfillment fees, more on that later. But all in all, NARF is the fastest way to launch in Canada market. So if NARF is so awesome, why do we even need FBA? Well, NARF does come with its limitations. I mentioned speed. Delivery promise is 5 to 7 days versus 0 to 2 days. There's higher remote fulfillment fees. All of this leads to lower conversion. It also restricts certain product categories, such as within consumables, beauty, grocery, let's say electronics. Because Amazon's taking all of the risk, the eligibility requirements are quite strict for NARF. But the biggest point, John touched on this a little bit, is FBA is 4x to 8x better from a sales lift standpoint compared to NARF, making FBA the most preferred channel. More on that later. I love this slide. It kind of just shows how easy NARF is. So sellers can enroll with a single click. Within Seller Central, just type in remote fulfillment FBA or go to the hamburger menu and you'll find it. Once you've enrolled, Amazon will replicate all of your offers and listings that are eligible within 24 hours, and we'll also translate it to French. Then we'll automate the pricing to make sure that your margins are protected and they're exactly the same as they're in the US. Post that, customers start discovering your products and buy them. Once they place an order, Amazon then ships the product from your US FBA warehouses to Canada. Then customers receive the full suite of FBA benefits, customer support, returns, all of that. To recap, this is the immediate way to enter the market in Amazon Canada, essentially turning lights on in your Canada store overnight. This just kind of highlights the difference between a NARF offer and an FBA offer. And like I mentioned, the NARF offer is on the left, FBA is on the right. Import duties, fees, et cetera, are passed on to the seller. And while it's not displayed here, they'll also see that the product is shipping from outside of Canada. They'll also see that it comes with a 5 to 7 day delivery. All of that resulting into lower conversion. While on FBA, you'll mimic the exact same experience that's in US, 0 to 2 days. Quick caveat, I do want to make sure I note that this is not for the same ASIN. I don't want people to think NARF is 2 times as higher in price as FBA. It's usually about 10 to 15% higher, mainly due to the higher NARF fees. This quote is from Amy Ferber at Cheebirdie, their personal safety alarm product, discussing their experience using NARF to start selling in Canada quickly. She notes the ease of use, how quickly they were able to get started, how it acted as a testing ground, and then how that resulted into an FBA launch eventually. We have thousands of sellers each year who start with NARF and then expand to FBA, and we hope many of you will follow the same journey. All right, so we'll go into FBA now. Most of you are familiar with FBA in US. Good news is FBA in Canada is pretty much exactly the same. It mirrors a lot of what happens in the US, whether it's the same fee structure, returns, inventory tools, all of that is the same. The one key difference is cross-border logistics. John touched on this earlier, but we have amazing selling partners. A few of them are in the pavilion today. Please visit them. I do see Forceget here, shout out. So yeah, you do need to work with selling partners to do your cross-border logistics. But as you heard in the general session today, Amazon continues to make investment and innovations that makes all of this easier. And on the Canada side too, look out for some cool features they'll launch later this year. So how do we get started with FBA and why do we do it? Short answer, to delight our customers. More and more e-commerce customers are expecting speed and faster delivery times. In-country FBA continues to be the best-in-class tools that offers that, whether it's same-day delivery or less than 2 days. When somebody's making a last-minute purchase decision, let's say a gift or something's broken in your house, that's the difference between a click and a buy is the delivery speed. So just kind of a quick recap on the key advantage of FBA. Faster delivery, lower fees results into higher buy box wins, better conversion. You get access to all of the restricted categories that you may not with NARF. Essentially, it gives you full control over your entire business. So we talked a lot about FBA. While FBA remains the most optimal method to sell in Canada, there are nuances to this. I do want to recognize for certain categories like heavy, bulky furniture, we have sellers that are super successful leveraging FBM. Also in NARF, we typically see that sellers use both of those channels together, where the top of your selection, the top sellers will be in FBA, and then the tail end will be in NARF. So you can leverage both together. More on that later. Yeah, I love this slide. So if there was one takeaway we wanted you all to have today, it's this. So in case people were not convinced by speed, conversion, et cetera, here's a stat that should convince you. Sellers typically see 4x to 8x sales increase when they move from NARF to FBA. So if you're doing $100,000 in NARF today, you could do $800,000 in FBA simply by launching, and that's mainly due to speed, fees, et cetera. We consistently see sellers outperform their entire years of NARF sales within 1 month of an FBA launch. FBA also delivers 20 to 30% improvement in organic ranking within the first 3 months. Just want to leave it up here. This is super powerful, and this next slide does a good job of kind of showcasing that from a seller view. So this is from Versa Grips. They make fitness products. Their CEO, Brian Emmerich, kind of talking about their experience. So they launched via NARF, initially generating about $5,000 in sales, partnered with Amazon account reps and SPN. After switching to FBA, their sales increased 7-fold, and they're averaging $40K a month. This is all within the first year. OK, so Jono touched on a lot of this earlier, but you can do all of this in terms of setting up FBA through your US Seller Central account and your Canada Seller Central account. Creating listing, preparing shipment. You do need to work with SPNs, as we alluded to earlier, to ship your products, actually. But outside of compliance requirements, if you do it all diligently, you could be live in FBA in less than 4 weeks. OK, busy slide, goes through all the registration requirements. I'm not going to get into every single one of them. As I mentioned, for some of these, we have our partners that are experts in this. But just a quick recap, you do need to register for an NRI, which is a non-resident importer number. You do need to have a business number, GST. This is basically like your tax ID in the US. You do need to have CARN registration. After you've done that, you absolutely want to ensure your products are compliant. We have partners that can help with that and account reps that can help with that as well. Once you've done all that, you're ready now to ship your inventory to Canada. All right, so to wrap up this section, here are a couple pro tips that I want to leave you with. There's this really cool feature that we launched last year, which is the auto toggle between FBA and NARF. Let's say you ship a product via FBA, a single ASIN, and it runs out of stock. If you have NARF enabled, it'll it'll basically be the backup offer to the FBA offer. So it protects your ranking, it protects the search volume, and then when the product is replenished by FBA, the FBA offer supersedes. So that's how you can kind of leverage both of those channels together. We recommend typically starting, if you're starting FBA, with your top 10 to 20% of your products, looking at the US sales numbers, and then sending in about 3 months worth of inventory, again, looking at NARF data or your US data. Leveraging both programs together is the way to go. All right, now that we've covered launch, let's dive into optimization. We're not going to get through all the tools in limited time, but we will highlight a few key ones. And then if you attend the general session today, everything you heard from an AI standpoint, that's the innovations that are happening with Seller Assistant, et cetera, all of that will apply to Canada eventually as well. Usually, sometimes the rollouts at the same time. In some cases, it's a little bit lagged. Successful sellers in Canada follow this 4-step proven framework. So hopefully, a lot of this is just a recap of what you've done in your US stores. First one's creating a brand store, mirroring all your US listings, A+ content. Amazon does a lot of heavy lifting for you on this. The really cool part is, let's say you had an ASIN in US that had 1,000 reviews. When you cross-launch into Canada, majority of those reviews will carry over. Second, you want to drive visibility. So invest in ads, sponsor products, sponsor brands, sponsor display. I truly believe here's where Canada offers a unique advantage. This is from account manager at Envision Horizons. So with CPCs typically half the price of US keywords, brands can effectively build awareness using search terms that would be cost prohibitive in the US market. What it means is lower CPCs in Canada versus US allows for a more aggressive advertising strategy. We typically recommend allocating 10% of your budget to maintain the optimal ROAS and ACoS in Canada. Going back, all right, so you've created a store, you've driven visibility, people are actually coming to your product. You want to offer promotions. They work exactly the same way in the US as in Canada. So enroll in wine, have a coupon PED strategy, have a marquee and evergreen deal strategy. Once you've done all that, I think the last one is so critical for international expansion, is restocking catalog growth. Whether you're leveraging the FBA new selection tool, all of the tools we have, all the programs we have, staying in stock is the name of the game, whether you're starting out or you've been selling for years. All right. Okay, another busy slide. It just kind of goes through all of the levers that are available. What's cool about this is whether you're a reseller, brand owner, rights owner, there's lots of levers that are backed by Amazon, science, data, metrics that have been proven over time. They work in Canada too. So one thing I wanted to take away from this, which is unique to Canada, is if you're enrolled in brand registry in the US, majority of those rights carry over to Canada. Right? So ability to edit listings, A+ content, creating brand store. For certain tools like report a violation, you would need to file for a trademark in Canada, and you can do that through IP Accelerator. All right, there are a lot of programs that help you support for a fast start. So Amazon's invested heavily in your success, and there are a lot of financial incentives. Some of these are time sensitive, so please take advantage of them. New seller incentives, we'll get into that in a second, sponsor product ad credits, storage offers, high ASP. You probably heard about that in the last year or so. Yeah, I definitely want to highlight this one. So new seller incentives offer up to $70,000 back. The breakdown is 10% back on the first 70K in sales, and then 5% until you reach 1.3 million in sales. You also get sponsor product credit. All of these incentives are designed to help you get off to a quick start. Like I mentioned, free monthly storage, free removals, allowing for testing the product fit with lower risk, unlimited capacity. I think this is huge. If you're a seller that wants to go big from the get-go, for the first 9 months, you're not going to have any limitations. You can ship containers from overseas to Canada, send as much product as you want. All right, so I understand it can be daunting to launch, grow, regardless of how easy we make it in reality or how we made it sound today. Rest assured, we have our entire account management team that supports that. We support thousands of sellers through complimentary support, and we also have SaaS Core in Canada. So make sure to connect with our team members after this.